Our speaker today is a friend and family member of Christ Universal Temple since 1972. Dr. Rocco Errico is an international lecturer and author, scholar, spiritual counselor, and one of the nation's leading biblical scholars, working from the original Aramaic Prayer text. Dr. Errico has dedicated his life to the study of the Bible. His works and teachings glean from the simple, straightforward Aramaic translation of the Bible. They have inspired and touched the hearts of millions. For more than 40 years, he has traveled the globe lecturing and teaching the simple truths, free from the dogma and doctrine of modern-day Christianity, providing spiritual enlightenment, healing, and a meaningful understanding of the Bible to people of all faiths, denominations, and backgrounds. Dr. Errico is a personal friend of our founder, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. And note I said is, okay? Dr. Errico has been writing for the Science of Mind magazine for 36 years, every month. He was inducted into the Colloquium of Scholars at Morehouse College, and he is currently the Dean of Biblical Studies at Hillside Church, where the Reverend Dr. Barbara King is the minister. So let's give Dr. Errico a warm welcome for today and for the seminar he did on yesterday.
Good morning. That's really loud. I'll step away here. How is it now? Better? I think we need to close it down a little bit. Okay. I know this is a funny question to ask, but how many here have never heard me? May I see your hands? Good, just a few. It is my usual custom, before I begin a talk, as many of you know, I always open with the Lord's Prayer in the ancient Aramaic tongue. It is his language, the way it fell from his lips almost 2,000 years ago. Shall we pray? Awun washmeya netkadashmach te malkuthach nechwe sabianna kekana dashmeya apar haulan lachma sunkananyau mana washwok lan hau bain a kanadap hanan shwakin lahayawain la tatlanisiona ella pasan min bisha mithol lilahi malkutha haila tishbochta la'alam almin. Amen. Everything Jesus did, everything he taught, all the healings he worked with, he always did it through the Aramaic language. That was his native tongue, not Greek. This is why we have so much trouble with the Bible, because we're always doing it through Greek. And you know, when things are Greek, we don't understand it. Right? When I was lecturing in Germany, and I was trying to use the term Greek, you know, the way we use it here in the States, you know, when we say, oh, that's Greek to me, I thought, how am I going to get that across to the people? I know they don't say that in Germany. And I was lecturing at a psychiatric convention. I was the keynote speaker there. And so the man who was interpreting for me, I said, isn't there something equivalent in German? Like we say, it's Greek to me. He says, oh, yes, we say that, but not Greek. I said, well, I'm going to use that, but you use what you say in German. He says, oh, we say, not it's Greek to me, but it's Spanish villages to me. Spanish villages? And when we say someone has a screw loose, they don't say that. They say there's no cups in the cupboard. When you go from one language to another, you cannot take it literally. And that's what we've done with the Scriptures. We've done that with everything with the Scriptures, and we misunderstood it. My topic this morning is the ancient Aramaic prayer of Jesus. Some of you have heard me say this before, but I'm going to repeat it. The word for prayer, we say in Aramaic, the word for prayer that we translate as prayer is the word slotha. It's spelled S-L-O-T-H-A, slotha. And we translate that as prayer. But the minute we translate it as prayer, we're going to think English. We're going to think the way we do in English. The root of the word, in other words, all nouns are built from a root, and the root is generally a verb. It is a verb, and the verb is S-L-A, and we translate that as to pray, S-L-A. But again, it's English. When you really understand the word, if you're going to understand it in the Aramaic tongue that Jesus spoke. And remember, he wasn't speaking to us. He was speaking to the people on the hillside. He was speaking to country people. And when he gave this prayer, he gave it in utter simplicity. He didn't use liturgical prayers. Today we use liturgical prayers, and this prayer, which we call the ancient Aramaic prayer of Jesus, has become liturgical. But when he gave it, it had to have meaning and something that people could grasp. So the word prayer comes from sla, to pray, as we say in English, but it means literally to trap. To trap means something has got to change. When we think of prayer, we think of, talking. That's how we think of prayer. Now, asking is something else. That's a part of it, but that's something completely different. But when Jesus gave this prayer, it was to open us up and to shift our energy. Prayer is something that shifts our energy, because when we're just moving and carrying on and doing what we do with our daily work, we have energy is working in us. But what prayer does is it shifts that energy. It shifts it away from everything we see, from everything we hear. That's what prayer is. But what happens in most prayers is people are so busy talking in prayer that they're not praying. You know how the mind goes. And it's really hard to shift that energy. And when I say shift that energy, I don't mean just with thoughts. What happens when you get into the state of prayer where you're going to trap, your whole being shifts. When the energy shifts, all your cells, everything is shifting into a new way of understanding, a new way of capturing. It means to capture. You're going to capture something. You see, I like to use the illustration of a CD. You know, there's two kinds of CDs. One that already has a program, right? So what you put in is that program that you put in. And most of us think of prayer as, I got my program. And we put it in. But there's a deeper sense in prayer that Jesus was talking about here. And that is when you go in with a blank disc. Because a blank disc will pick up on what is being transmitted. If you're going to watch a certain TV program and you want to make a CD of it, that's what you're going to get. So prayer then is this complete shift where you're going in with a blank disc. In other words, you're open and receptive, using other words. You're open and receptive. So everything is shifting in you, and this prayer that Jesus gave, remember, he's talking to country people, has to be simple. And, you know, this is what I say, there's one thing about Jesus that I have against him. Too simple. But we don't have to worry about that because the church complicated it later. He brought us directly into communication. But if you notice, you know what's missing in this prayer? Now, we all know the Lord's Prayer. We sang it. We hear it all the time. There's only one major difference when I say it in Aramaic, and that is, it is, do not let us enter into temptation. You don't have to ask God, don't lead me into temptation. God is nothing but pure goodness. God doesn't know how to lead anyone into temptation. That's one thing God can't do. He doesn't know how to lead people into temptation. And yet everywhere, everyone's praying, you know, don't lead me into temptation. Can you imagine your children coming to you and saying to you, don't lead me into temptation? No. That do not let us enter means keep me out of trouble. Plain English. So getting back to this, what is missing in this prayer? What word is missing? The word God. Do you realize that? The word God is not here in the prayer. Because, again, he was shifting their imagery and their understanding away from what we call God. Because the moment we say God, the moment I say God, we think of omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence, right? Omniactivity. But Jesus was moving it away. He was moving it in another direction. In fact, Jesus very seldom, as far as what we have recorded, Jesus very seldom used the word God. Very seldom. What he uses is with, what he starts this prayer with is Awun. Awun. And we translate that as our Father. And I know that doesn't sit well with many people in our modern world, because they think that Jesus is talking about masculinity, and Jesus is not. Because in the ancient world, the problem with biblical studies is we study it from a theological point of view, And our theology comes from Greek. Even our word theology is Greek. Theo is God, and theology means study, study of God. That's Greek. They didn't have that. And you think that the simple farmers and shepherds that heard Jesus were interested in theology? Imagine we're having to go 4 and 5 years of seminary to understand what fishermen understood around the Lake of Galilee who didn't even know how to read and write. Imagine that. His teaching was so powerful that it lifted them from the mundane world that they were in. So when he gave this prayer, and he said, when you pray, and he said, you say, our Father, as we say in English, but Aun, our Father. Now, there's several things involved in this. What is it? What's it doing? What's it shifting? What it's shifting is our energy and our image, what we are imagining. It shifts our imagination, and it shifts it to our Father. But we have one problem with that, is we don't see it the way they do in the Near East. The term father and the term mother in Aramaic and in Arabic and in Hebrew meant something different than it does in our modern world. In those 3 Semitic languages, father, mother means beloved. Beloved. So when you say our Father, you're saying our beloved. It was a term of endearment. And I'll forget one of the first times that I was lecturing on this, and it was to a mixed group, and I was mentioning the fact that father meant beloved, but I didn't say anything about the rest of how they use it. And there was a woman from Israel who stood up, spoke wonderful English, but her native tongue was Hebrew. She says, you're forgetting something. I said, what did I forget? She says, well, mother also is the same thing. My mother will call me mother. And a father will call his son father. 2 friends will call each other father. Because it's like we use honey. That sounds strange to them. Imagine calling somebody honey. In fact, I'll never forget when Dr. Lamza was invited. Lamza was my mentor who translated the entire Bible from Aramaic into English. And when he came into America and they wanted to help him financially, and the head of the school there told him, he says, well, I have to wait for my honey to come in. Yes, you understand what I'm talking about, what he took it as. He took it to mean that he'd have to wait for the bees to make the honey so he could write the check to help support. And then he learned that we called people that we love honey and sweetheart and darling and precious. Well, this is the idea when you say father, mother, you're saying that term of endearment. So the first shift that you have when you are saying this prayer, and if I don't say anything else, because I'm going to have to talk faster to get everything in, when you say Father, what you are calling in is what you are shifting to is a sense of love, is a sense of endearment, is the sense of closeness, is the sense of intimacy right away. When you call someone honey, what do you feel? When you call your honey, honey, what are you feeling? Do you see what I'm talking about? A shift of energy? The minute you call your honey, honey, there's a shift of energy, right? Maybe it means to smooch a little bit too, right? Because you're in a state of delight. You're in a complete state of delight. And we don't think of prayer as a state of delight. But that's exactly what this first attunement does. When you shift the energy and you say, our Father, that's why when I say it, I usually say, our beloved. In other words, a complete shift has taken place into me, and I'm in a state of delight, a state of receptiveness, a state of receiving, and I'm in delight. I'm in ecstasy. I just called God honey. And that's the idea of the prayer. Do you realize what a position that puts you in? There's no negativity. There's no condemnation. You become intimate with the inner true sense of yourself. You become one with that inner sense. I mean, you see how non-theological this is? Can you hear a theologian telling you this is a state of delight? No. No, but that's what it is when you say our Father. And the second thing, when you say our beloved, and you use the term Father or Mother, even if you say, oh, Father, Mother, God, you're still saying beloved. Still saying beloved. Doesn't make any difference. But the minute you say that, it means you're an heir. H-E-I-R. An heir. Aren't your children your heirs? So that puts you in another position and another shift. You are an heir. An heir of what? An heir of the beloved. An heir, not notice the word God isn't there, because you become an heir of love. You become an heir of compassion. You become an heir of truth, of harmony, of joy, of understanding, of enlightenment. You move into a complete different... You see how different prayer is when you understand it from that? When we're so busy with our own program, we don't catch that inner program of the beloved. When I first started telling this, I was in Los Angeles at the headquarters for Science of Mind, and they put on a special Saturday seminar, and I was talking about the Lord's Prayer. And I was talking to them about going in with an empty disc. So a shift can take place. And when I got through, and I opened it up for Q&A, they raised their hand and said, I don't get what you mean, going in with an empty disc. Well, it means trap. It's going to be sent to your trap. I still don't get it. I thought, how can I get it through to this person? I said, I got it. When you go in prayer, setting a trap means shut yours. They got it. They should, I got it. See, because you have to prepare not just your mind, but your whole body has to shift into this new state. So you've done it when you said, our beloved, or you could say our Father, or our Father, Mother. And you don't have to say God, because you're saying beloved. It means you're an heir now, and an heir is going to receive all that the beloved has. Oh, isn't that beautiful? That is absolutely beautiful. You see how simple the scriptures really are, but we made it difficult. Then he says in the next line, Your name is sacred, or which we always say, hallowed be thy name, which really means your nature is totally distinct. Sacred means distinct, unique. Unique from the way I'm looking at things, from the way I understand things. Totally unique, distinct. And I can go into more detail, but I got to go fast. I only have 5 more minutes. This is the trouble about a Sunday talk is, in the Near East, you can talk as long as you want. If you don't put people to sleep, you're fired from the church. And when you want to congratulate a speaker, you go up to him saying, such a message. But I didn't understand a word. That means you got to keep coming back till you get it, see. So different. So what I'm going to do is go faster in the lines here. Your name is sacred, distinct. Nitkadash shmach is what we say in Aramaic. Your name is distinct. It's separate from the way I'm looking at things. So again, the shift is moving away from what your eyes have seen and what your ears heard, because we normally make judgments on what our eyes see and what our ears hear, instead of waiting for that inner understanding and guidance. So that is the second shift or attunement that takes place when you're saying this prayer. Your kingdom come, or let your kingdom come. In other words, let God's counsel, let the beloved's counsel, a parent's counsel. The word kingdom in Aramaic is malkutha. Both in Aramaic and Hebrew, same word, except they drop the A in Hebrew. They just say malkuth. But in Aramaic, we say malkutha, because Hebrew comes from the roots of Aramaic. And the word kingdom, when we think of kingdom, we think of a realm. But that's not what it means here. It comes from the word M-L-K-H. M-L-K-H. Remember I told you that the nouns come from a verb, and the verb is generally 3 letters or 4 letters. Some of them are sometimes 2. And malkutha comes from the root verb M-L-K-H. And we pronounce it You'll have it, because there's no vowel there. It's just all consonants. And it means to counsel. To counsel. So what you're doing now is, because you have shifted everything and you're in a state of delight and you're in a state of receptivity, you realize you are an heir, and now let your counsel come. Let God's counsel come, the Father's, the beloved, the parents' counsel come. You know, I used to line up all my children, 3, and they always heard my counsel. And I'm sure they hear yours too. Right? And it says, let your will be throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. And when we think of the word will, doesn't sound good. The actual word there is sewiana. And sewiana means a desire, a wish, a desire. When we think of someone's will, we think of someone trying to force something on us. But that word, sewiana, in Aramaic means a wish, a desire. Let your wish, your desire be throughout the earth as it is throughout the universe, throughout the heavens. But remember, this is the beloved, the parent, the father-mother term of endearment. So we're talking about not the will of a God, but we're talking about the wish, the desire of a parent. And what do you wish and desire for your children? What's the first thing you want for your children? And I don't care how old they are. They can be in their 40s and 50s. They're still your child. Right? Yes. You're still, and whatever happens to them, you feel it too. So what do we always wish or desire? The first thing is that they be healthy. We want them healthy. And the second thing is that they prosper. When you're healthy, you can prosper. And the third thing is what I used to tell my children all the time, and even when they got older: don't fight. Does that, you know what a nightmare it is to take a children on vacation? Oh, you don't know. Especially if they're in the back seat of the car. It's, he touched me. He did this. She did that. He pulled my hair. He pinched me. Am I talking to strangers? And we humans are just like children. One nation with another, community with another. He said this, she said that. We don't like this community. We don't like that meeting. We don't like that staff meeting. Blah, 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 blah. Come on now. And so what is this? I can see the Father, the Abba, saying what? Meaning the beloved. What? Don't fight. If God had a face, that's what he would do. Don't fight. Get along. Oh, how simple this prayer is. In other words, let the fight go out of me. Let the picky-uni thing go out of me. Because you're in a state of prayer now. And I only have 1 minute left. You're in a state of prayer, a state of being, where you're letting go of all that pettiness. No, I know you don't get petty. You let it go. You're shifting the energy. You're changing. This is what prayer does. Prayer changes you, not God. It shifts you. It puts you in a new position and a new change. I see it. Just quickly, you provide us our needful bread from day to day, is what it says. And you keep me out of temptation. But if you're in it, pray it the other way. Get me out. I'm sure the beloved would help you with that too. And one more thing before I do the amen. And forgive us. I love the word to forgive in Aramaic. The word forgive is, it sounds funny. It's short and it has a funny sound. It's shwak. Shwak. S-H-W-A-K. Shwak. So when you forgive, you shwak people. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But it means to literally untie. To untie, to loosen, to free, to set free. So when you forgive, you set yourself free from the error that was created. You untie yourself. It's not so much the other person. You know, lots of times you forgive the other person says, I don't care. And then you want to take your forgiveness back. Right? So, it means to untie yourself where you are free. You see what you're doing with your state of being? You have freed yourself from being tied from people's errors, whether it's in the community or someone in the church or someone on the platform. Oh, you all look so innocent. Someone you have a gripe with, and one of the worst ones, your in-laws. No. You don't have that problem. You live in another world. No, because we're constantly butting heads, we need the state of prayer to give us our right perspective and our right state of being so we can have harmony and justice and love and compassion. And there's nothing more wonderful than when you're in tune with people and there's harmony and love and joy flowing back and forth to each other. And that's what prayer does for us. And when we say amen, and I'll close now, when we say amen, we say, I'll back it up. Amen in Aramaic means I'm faithful to this. Not just so be it. Oh, it's easy to say, oh, so be it. So be it. No. When you say amen, it means I'm going to participate. It means you've signed your name. It means you're given to it. You're committed to it. In other words, after you get this prayer, you say, I'm with you, man. This is what it means. Amen. Amen.